Hi everyone, this is Dr. Menishe from Embracing Your Therapy, and today we're going to talk about social media and mental health. Specifically, I want to ask you this question. Are you self-diagnosing your mental health through social media? Before you answer that question, let's take a look at our current lives with social media and how it might be affecting our mental health. Just a few weeks ago, a new app, Threads, came up. So clearly, there's no running away from social media, and we might have many more in the future that we will be engaged in. And there are clearly many wonderful benefits to social media where we are finding new connections, we are having more open and vulnerable conversations about mental health, we're bringing certain topics, difficult topics to forefront, and again, having very open, difficult conversations, bringing awareness, sharing personal stories, finding inspirations. And these are absolutely one of my favorite things about social media and its influence on mental health. However, there are some challenges to social media when we're trying to navigate our mental health. And that's again related to self-diagnosing of mental health issues. And I want to walk you through what are some of the concerns are. One of the first things to keep in mind is possibly misinterpreting information that you're exposed to on social media. Yes, there are licensed professionals, licensed therapists on social media, like myself, sharing information. However, when we're sharing these informations for 30 seconds reel or 30-second TikTok videos, we have to understand that they can be misinterpreted by anyone. For example, you watch a video on anxiety or ADHD and you see all these symptoms being listed, you can very quickly fall into this conclusion that I must have ADHD, I must have OCD. And again, I'm all for having these conversations to take to a therapist and have conversations whether do I have ADHD, do I have OCD. But I do want you to wonder if there could be misinterpretation when we watch these very bite-sized videos and falsely make conclusions that's what I must have. And along with that, we really want to consider that when we start liking, watching, or saving videos with some of the algorithms on these social media accounts, what ends up happening is that we are then exposed to similar conversations, similar topics, and similar accounts. Again, on one hand, this might be wonderful because there's a whole world of information out there that you didn't have maybe before you watched this video. But you also have to consider on the other end, there could be a selective exposure and a confirmation bias, meaning if you like the video on ADHD and your social media now shows you all these ADHD videos, you may then falsely get this impression that wow, over and over again I learn about ADHD, it must what I have. So we really want to be careful about this confirmation bias because of the repetitive exposures. And the last thing to keep in mind when we talk about social media and mental health is that mental health is very complex, and there are so many different ways a particular mental health disorder can show up, and there are so many different sequence of events that may be involved in developing a mental health disorder. So when we read a post or watch a reel or TikTok, we really need to keep in mind that it can only talk about a small aspect of that mental health issue. And while again you might want to learn about it, you have to also have that balance that it's more than just what I'm seeing about this. It's more than maybe what this post can possibly talk about, because mental health is very complicated and complex. So when I talk about some of these challenges of social media in navigating our mental health, I am not suggesting that we turn off all social media. Clearly, that's going to be impossible. But also, that's not how we approach things in life. We don't want to go from one end of the spectrum to another end. We don't want to respond to things going from one extreme to another. We want to talk about doing things in moderation. So hopefully, now that you're exploring some of the positive but also difficult, challenging parts of social media as it relates to our mental health, let's talk about some coping skills. So when you think about how am I going to navigate my mental health needs and my mental health disorder in an era of social media, first things first is setting some boundaries. You really want to consider boundaries when it comes to your time, how much time you want to spend on social media, and you also want to have boundaries around which social media app you may want to most spend your time with. with this, fear of missing out, you may have on your smartphone all 5, 6, 7 different social media apps and finding yourself checking in all of them. So when we talk about setting boundaries, it's not really just time, but really consider limiting and being very specific about which social media app you want to spend your time on. And the second tool you really want to focus on is having self-awareness, meaning when you're having a mental health issues, disorder, or mental health struggles, please be mindful of how social media is affecting your mental health. We know now with all the social media posts and filters and shares, sometimes we leave a social media app feeling more drained or feeling less adequate or less competent about ourselves. How often do you leave social media app feeling bad about yourself, feeling like, wow, I am not as good as this person, I am, I'm not in a relationship like this person, and all of a sudden you were having a good day, but the social media app left you feeling like you're somehow a failure or unsuccessful. So again, setting boundaries goes hand in hand with being mindful and self-aware of what your needs are and making sure that the social media app is going to be supportive of your mental health needs, not cause more challenges. And the third thing that I might have to say is my favorite is really focus on having real life connections. This is a conversation sometimes comes up with my clients and I, where we have to realize, we think we are in connection with friends from college, friends from, in another state because we are connected on Instagram or because we saw what they did on Facebook. But then when I ask them, when is the last time you called that friend? Have you sent them a text message for their birthday, or did you leave them a voice, recording, or did you post them on their Facebook page, happy birthday? So again, consider, are those real life connections? Just because I like somebody's trip and a picture from their trip does not mean that I actually ended up calling them and asked them how it went. So as you're maneuvering social media, really focus on real life connection. And at some point, social media is no longer considered a real life connection. So we might have to really be mindful of the separation. And last but not least, please consider consulting with a licensed therapist when it comes to your mental health needs. As I've said in the beginning, social media had wonderful benefits and positive impact in starting conversations around very tough topics. And a lot of us may feel like there's no one in my life I can admit to having OCD or addiction or an eating disorder, but when I go to social media, I can comment, and talk about my mental health needs. So again, social media has been a very wonderful thing in getting us to talk about things that have been taboo and bringing more awareness to mental health. However, that is not a stopping point. We really have to be careful not to self-diagnose through social media, but instead watch a video, read what it's saying, but then take it to a licensed therapist to have a full assessment of what your mental health needs may be. And on that note, here at Embracing You Therapy, we provide individual and couples therapy, and we work with anybody residing in California and have in-person sessions here in Woodland Hills. So if you have any questions regarding therapy or about this video, please share them below and I will personally respond to it. And thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.